we should get started.
Absolutely.
So welcome to the ASID New Jersey inaugural and hopefully annual Black History Month panel discussion. First of all, we would like to invite our president, Nada, to say a few words. Nada?
Hi. Hi, everyone. All right, so my name is Nada Alzabi, president of the ASID New Jersey chapter. Can you hear me?
Somebody needs to...
Hello?
Somebody needs to mute.
All right, can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good. So should I start again? Okay. So yeah, my name is Nada Alzabi, president of the ASID New Jersey chapter. I would like to welcome you all to our Black History Month event, led by our dedicated professional development director, Tammy Bolden, and our great program committee. And also, I would like to welcome and thank our wonderful panelists for being here today to enrich us with their experience and knowledge. I would also like to thank our chapter sponsors, our gold sponsor, Design NJ, silver sponsor, Benjamin Moore, Ferguson, and Sharon Williams, and our bronze sponsors, Atlas Marble and Granite, and JNSY Stark. And without further ado, I will give the floor back to you, Tammy, to introduce our panelists.
Thank you, Nada. But before we introduced our panelists, I just want to talk about some of the upcoming events that we have going on at ASID. Next week, on March 2nd, we will be hosting a CEU with Safavia in Livingston. It's on performance fabric, so that should be a good event to attend. And it's in person, so it's going to be at Safavia in Livingston. On March 8th, we're doing another virtual panel for Women's History Month. And March 8th happens to be International Women's Day. So we're having a Women's History Month virtual panel with Blanche Garcia, Alyssa Grayer, who is the president of ASID Metro New York, and Jennifer Quayle of Aspire Magazine. And the topic is going to be Women Empowering Women in Design, the successes and the struggles. So that should be a good one. You should see a sign-up link coming out in the next day or so. So we'd love to have you join us for that. And March 22nd through the 25th is Student and Emerging Professionals Week. We're going to start off the week with a design crawl in Paramus, in the Paramus area. So that should be a really interesting and very fun event. There's going to be a series of topics discussed every night from Wednesday through Saturday, with a keynote speaker on Saturday. So look for more details on that. April 11th, we're doing another CEU at Metropolitan Window Fashions in Paramus, and that's going to cover window treatments. And that's going to focus actually on sustainability for window treatments, since April 22nd, I think it is Earth Day, but we're going to have our program a little bit earlier. We're doing a cruise ship social. We're looking forward to that with Cornucopia Cruise Lines in Maryland. Our wonderful Marilyn Laverne is heading up that committee, so you'll be getting more details on that. And then June 27th is our Design Excellence Awards, and then our trade show, our annual trade show, is the end of September. So these are some of the things that we have coming up, and you'll be getting information. If you're not getting our email blasts, please go to our website and make sure you sign up so that you're getting all of the information that we have on all these wonderful events. So without further ado, I'd like to begin by introducing our panel in alphabetical order. First, we have Everett Brown. Everett Brown is the CEO and Chief Creative Officer. He's a designer with clients throughout the U.S. Based in New York, he launched Everett Brown Designs in 2009 to dedicate 100% of his time to creating modern, elegant homes for a discerning clientele. Prior to Everett Brown Design, he founded EB Home, an upscale home furnishings and design studio in 2000. Located in Mount Kisco, New York, and South Norfolk, Connecticut, his home furnishing store and design studios are a compilation of his life experience as a fashion merchandise and connoisseur of fine home furnishings. For over 15 years, Everett traveled to Europe, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand as a senior retail executive, providing merchandising and design expertise for duty-free stores, Coach Leatherwear, and J. Crew, to name a few. Everett offers an intriguing mix of fashion, design, and style. His interiors are self-described as modern classic with a global perspective. He has been featured in Architectural Digest, House Beautiful, and Westchester Magazine, to name a few. Everett has also been featured on television and recently highlighted on NBC's Open House. Everett is married with 2 children and a graduate of Dartmouth College. Welcome, Everett.
Thank you. Sounds like you got everything. Wow.
Next, we have Marilyn Laverne, who is the principal of Marilyn Laverne Interiors, where she designs residential and commercial spaces for clients in the greater New York City area. Interior design is a second profession for Marilyn, who enjoyed a successful career in brand marketing for leading lifestyle brands, entertainment entities, and the arts, and in business and community development in both Montclair and Newark. She pursued formal interior design training at the Parsons School of Design in New York and shifted her interest towards residential interior design. Upon completing her studies at Parsons, Marilyn opened Sepia Home, a furnishing showroom and fine arts gallery in the Montclair shopping district. After Sepia Home, she joined Cabinets to Go, one of the nation's largest cabinet retailers, where she designed hundreds of kitchens for clients throughout the country. Marilyn holds a BA in Mass Media Arts from Hampton University, and she recently reopened her design practice, designing interiors for clients interested in subtle luxury living, and has added fine art advisory to her services. She has collaborated with the Austin Gray Design Group, a collective of Black women interior designers, makers, and trade professionals in Brooklyn. She's an allied member of ASID and serves on the Diversity Task Force. Marilyn resides in Montclair with her husband, Lance, and they have 4 children. Welcome, Marilyn. Marilyn. And last but certainly not least, Beth Diana Smith is the CEO and principal designer of Beth Diana Smith Interior Design, a full-service interior design firm that brings collected meets refined, styled, and unparalleled efficiency to a variety of project types. She prides herself on her bold, eclectic style and is adept at crafting inspired residential and commercial designs. Beth's spaces marry visual interest and livability with luxurious finishes and skillful curation of art, pattern, and color. Beth has been featured in various outlets, including House Beautiful, Elle Decor, Real Simple, The Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Better Homes and Garden, and The Business of Home. She is proudly a founding member of the Black Artists and Designers Guild, an associate of the American Society of Interior Designers, and a member of the Design Leadership Council, and a member of the Black Interior Designers Network. Welcome, Beth Diana Smith. Thank you so much for joining us, our illustrious panel. So we're going to just jump right in, if that's okay with everyone. And if you have questions, those who are attending, if you have questions, just put them in the chat box and we'll get to the questions at the end of the panel. So my first question, what do you think is the most important issue facing Black designers in today's economic climate? Everett, would you like to start for us?
Ooh. Well, sure. So listen, I'm going to start with the pandemic as sort of the broad issue that I think is affecting us most. and we'll get into details as it falls from that. But for me, it's all about the pandemic, and there are positives and negatives.
Yeah. Beth, what about yourself? What do you think is the most important issue facing Black designers in today's economic climate?
I would say it's a mix. I definitely agree with Everett regarding the pandemic. However, I know personally for my business skyrocketed since the pandemic started when people were forced to deal with their home and they couldn't run to someone else's house because they didn't like their own.
Right.
And I've been seeing a lot of that. I think it's important, regardless if you're an interior designer, I think if you are a Black business owner, it's really important to keep quite a few things in mind. And that's making sure that you have enough money to cover your overhead, you have enough money to cover your day to day, that you have what I call a kitty, and that is almost like an emergency fund. And I think it's important to plan always for worst case scenario. Now, let me be clear. I do like nice things, and sometimes I buy things I probably shouldn't, but I'm going to do it anyway because life is short. But I do think it's important that we have a good balance of what we need versus what we want, focusing more on the needs. Like, I need probably new glasses to have my eye exam tomorrow, but I really want this bag I've been having my eye on. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to jinx it. And it's really about a balancing act. And I think that goes across the board.
That's true. Right. A balancing act is very important. Marilyn, what would you say is the biggest issue facing Black designers in today's economic climate?
You're
Marilyn,
on mute.
I hear you.
Thank you. So building on what both Everett and Beth Diana just shared, I think that, first of all, the pandemic threw us into a global sense of uncertainty. And I think that forced people to reevaluate the value that they place on the time they spend at home. And given the uncertainty and the fact that people are kind of, brought back to their homes, it's important for designers to be prepared with being clear about exactly what the service is that we offer, the value of that service, and its impact on the lives of our clients and potential clients. I think that the pandemic caught so many of us flat-footed. And then for some of us, it kind of propelled us into, into the world that we're seeing now. But I think nothing is more important for us, given where the world is right now, than being prepared and being clear about what our value is to the marketplace.
Very much so. I love that you said the value of our service. That's very key. We have to show our clients that we, are of value to them. Let me ask you just a direct question. Do you, the three of you, do you have an office in your home, or is it outside of your home? And what made you make that decision? Marilyn? Okay, go ahead, Beth. Beth, I'm sorry.
Go Beth.
I'm sorry. I recently, as of June of 2022, took my office out of my home. And I made that decision because in my home office, I was literally bursting at the seams. And I had been bursting for maybe a year or two. So I knew it was time. So I, looked at the numbers based on X, Y, and Z. What could I easily afford? Overly priced lease payment. And once I ran the numbers, I said, I could do that. I was also aware that I needed staff, so I had to factor all of those things in. And I'm actually very happy that I made the decision to get outside of my home office.
Mm-hmm. Marilyn or Everett, do you have a home office, or do you have an office outside of the home?
So right now for myself, my office is at home. This is Command Central right here. I have myself, and I now have a part-time assistant. However, my goal is hopefully within the next 12 to 18 months to move into an office space, a separate office space. It is difficult to work from home because it's hard, the lines become blurred as to, what's home life, what's work life. I do think, and for everybody listening and joining right now, I do think that right now is a good time to be moving into an office space, because commercial real estate is, well, it's undervalued right now because so many people have moved out of having an office. The reality is that, there's an opportunity, I think, a real estate opportunity to negotiate a lease in your favor in a desirable district, wherever you want to be. The last thing that I want to say is that, and I'm hoping to move to an office, but in the interim, I've also been considering converting our garage into an office studio, which would give me the opportunity to expand my staff and my library a little bit more.
That's wonderful. Having a studio inside your garage, you get the best of both worlds. You can kind of separate it a little, and
exactly
don't have a long commute, but also you don't have to worry about having clients in your home and all that. What about you, Everick? Oh, you're on mute, Everick.
Trying to keep it quiet. So yeah, I work from home. What that means, I'm not sure, because generally I'm on the road. So I had, as you mentioned in my introduction, 2 stores, which had design studios for over 10 years. And my last one was in Tribeca, and I sat there with 2.5 years of high overhead where clients didn't come to see me, and I had to make myself go or have a party and then people would come. But having clients on the West Coast, in the Northeast, a la Martha's Vineyard, Westchester, New York, New Jersey, I'm really rarely in my office, to be honest. So I use what I call laboratories like Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, the Shade Store. That's where my office is. And I happen to be in Los Angeles right now, as an example. So that is sort of why I've decided to work from home. But I also find my greatest inspiration at home. And so I think it's very individual. Some people need to be outside of their home. And if you're like me, I just love being on my floor or in one of the rooms that inspire me.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's.
Tammy, can I just add one thing?
Oh, sure, certainly.
It's nothing short of like an inspirational treat to visit Everick Brown's home and the office space that he works in. I privately took pictures in there because it is, I mean, really, it's a remarkable space of inspiration. His ability to be able to work from home is only amplified by the amount of resources that he's been able to amass in this beautiful space, and so I just wanted to share that.
Thank you
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's
I forgot about that.
I want to know why I haven't been invited to
I was just thinking the same
Wait, look,
thing.
Beth, Marilyn took up all my time. No.
I believe it.
I think that's a decision everyone has to make for their business. Just thinking about, the overhead, the cost, the time, depending on your family life, all of those things have to be factored in. So I really think that
people coming in and out of your personal space.
Exactly. I just recently moved my offices to my basement level, which is finished, and we have a side door. I haven't had to have clients in the house yet, but it just kind of separates my home and my office. So, and everyone just, like I said, needs to just make the decision, for themselves. Speaking of clients, where do you find your greatest source for obtaining clients?
For what kind of clients?
For obtaining clients.
Oh, obtaining.
Everick?
I find in my network, to be honest,
Mhm.
and I call it a network, but they're concentric circles that are spread across the country.
Okay. Are you part of any organizations?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, I am also a part of Badge.
Okay.
I have other groups that I'm involved in, but you're correct to point out the organizations that you're associated with. But again, I say it's a lot based on network and referrals.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you agree, Beth and Marilyn?
I would say for me, it's a mix. I get a lot of client referrals, and a lot of clients, I would say, come to me because of social media or publications. Like, oh, I saw you in this article. I saw you on Open House. Open House and NYC, I'm sure Everett can attest to this. That brought a lot of inquiries as well. But a
Okay.
lot of it has been through networking and social media.
Okay. Marilyn?
I would say that there's been sort of three sources for me. One has been real estate brokers, and the second would be, to some extent, my social network. And then the third would be people people who recall that I had a showroom here in Montclair, and they've called me and said, "Hey, I noticed you don't have your showroom anymore, but are you still doing interior design? I'd really like to talk to you further. I have a project that I want to do." So those have been the three sources for me. I am, I think between Everick and Beth Diana, I'm newer to returning to this work as, as a sole proprietor and, working in a consulting role. And so I feel like, over time, my answer to that question will probably change and become perhaps a little bit narrower, but the opportunities will be wider.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think it also depends, and I think that's great that you have three of us here. It also, where you mine for your business is really informed by, who is your client profile?
Yes.
What age are they? What income bracket are they? Where do they live, socialize, and work? All those things come into effect. And so I love hearing and getting ideas from everybody, but it really will get down to, at the end of the day, who is your client base and how do you get to them?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And who you want your client base to be. I would say that's also important. Like, it's okay to tell a client no.
Ooh,
and
would you expound upon that?
Like, if a client, like, I have my minimum regarding budget and rooms, and if you happen to fall under that, then I am not the designer for you. No, I cannot discount my services. This is not Target. Interior design is a luxury service, and I am very unapologetic about that. I can refer them to, if I happen to know another designer who I think would be interested in that project, I will happily refer. But some clients have been upset that I've said, no, I'm unable to take their project for these reasons. But that's, to be almost like brash about it, that's your problem, and it's not necessarily my problem. Right. I'm here, I operate from a level of standards and boundaries, and there's no wiggle room with that. So if you want a certain type of client, don't accept the clients that you don't want, because you're wasting time taking away from the opportunities that could be coming.
Exactly. And most don't understand the value that we bring to the table. And if they do, then they don't value you.
Right.
So I'm with you on that.
Right.
So I want to add one thing. That is exactly why I said, what Beth and Everick just said is exactly why I said, right now I have sort of three sources of, ways people reach me. The broadest has been real estate people. And that mostly has been because people have come to me saying, I know she does kitchens. and we need a kitchen done, or the new homeowner needs their kitchen and bathroom done, right? Over time, and I'm kind of making that transition now. I would like not to do kitchens and baths. That's not my, I'd like to do whole homes. There are other rooms I'd like to do. There's art advisory, and that's going to be a client that is spending more money and is thinking in a longer term way. So this is why I'm saying that the network for me may narrow, but the business opportunity would expand and get wider.
Sure. So what do you think is your biggest struggle in your business as an entrepreneur? And what is your greatest success as an entrepreneur? I know that's a loaded question.
I'll start. I would say the biggest struggle, because I feel like that one is easy. I would say the biggest struggle is time. There's not enough of it ever. And constantly trying to manage it, and have happy clients, but also draw the boundaries as well. And the biggest success, I will give the one that I've heard other people point out for me versus what I can see for myself, and that is, I feel very blessed to have gotten a lot of press without having to pay for press. And I feel like that's been a blessing in of itself, because paying for press for me at this point isn't a part of my business model. Maybe because I'm putting that into this lease, who knows? But I would say that has been also really, really helpful in the growth of my business as well.
Sure. I'm like, y'all be doing the most.
I'm sorry. I don't know who that was.
I don't know. Someone had commented.
I didn't hear it.
Well, Beth, if I may be so bold as to say, I would think being able to have your own office space, being at a point in your career where you can, have a beautiful office like you do, that's a big, success. So I give you kudos to you for that.
Oh, thank you, friend.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think my biggest struggle, having been in the business for over 2 decades now, has really been to understand that I'm both an entrepreneur and a designer. And it's the entrepreneur part that is the greatest struggle. And for me, having come out of an industry where I understand how to run a business down to not only profit and loss to EBITDA, one of the things I struggled with probably for 75% of my time in the business is really understanding whether or not I was making money or not. So as a designer, if I might say, I have focused on my portfolio, driving volume, how big are projects. And I had not until the last 3 to 5 years focused on profit and loss. Exactly how much was I spending to drive that volume? So it didn't matter if we were at $500,000 or $1 million if my expenses were at 1.5.
Right.
Just to exaggerate that. One of the things I really focus on now is running my business as a business. My greatest success, who helps allow me to do that, is my wife. So creating a husband and wife team has offered me a success that I don't think I would otherwise have.
Oh, I love it. I love your wife.
Anybody who has met Lisa understands the powerhouse that she is. Behind Averick's immense creativity. She really, I take notes on what Lisa.
She's our rainmaker.
Does.
To make it clear, she brings in the business. If you can, whether it's a wife, a partner, or an associate, having a focus on rainmaking, and what I mean by that is somebody who's focused on where that next business is coming from, that allows you to be what we should be, irrational designers, is truly a privilege.
Right. Yeah, that's wonderful. Because at the end of the day, as much as we all love what we do, this is a business. And, you know, we all want to make sure that our bills are paid. So
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely.
And I might add, Tammy, just before you go there, because people are like,
sure.
well, how do you do that? You list your expenses and
Exactly.
dig in there. How much is photography for the year? What's your marketing? What's your social media? How much are your employees? How much does it cost to drive, you know, from Westchester to Long Island? It's everything. And you'll quickly see, you know, what your gross margin is, what your profit and loss is. And if you go that further to EBITDA.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes you have to just realize you have to outsource things. You know, there's things that you may not be able to do on your own. And I learned the hard way. QuickBooks is my best friend on my computer, if you will.
And and having a bookkeeper. By the way, I spent decades fighting having a bookkeeper because I had QuickBooks. I can do this. Yes. Well, every time tax season came around, I had to shut my business down for 2 months to, you know, reconcile my taxes. I hired the bookkeeper, and now I'm that much more efficient at bringing in more business or creating more design.
I'm writing that down, Everett, because that may be my next step.
Oh, I fought it. My accountant has said for decades, please hire a bookkeeper. Just please.
Yeah.
And it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see. I'm just looking at my questions here. What would you say is the most common misperception you have faced in the design industry as a Black designer?
We're not qualified enough.
I was going to say, anybody want to tackle that?
I just kind of jumped in there and I said that we're not qualified enough.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's always that misconception. And sometimes I get that from other designers. Sometimes I get that from potential clients. And sometimes it's just regardless of race, and they watch HGTV and they think, you know, that it takes 2.5 weeks to plan and renovate a kitchen. And a lot of it, sometimes I don't even take offense to. I just think that ignorance is bliss and they just don't know any better.
And they don't. I mean, that. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Oh, I was going to say, I agree with that. I think that us underestimating the qualifications that we have and the expertise we have about, you know, what we're doing is probably the most common thing. I think that happens across the board. Non-Black people often feel confident knowing far less of a thing to call themselves an expert. And I think that factors into how people perceive Black and brown people. And I think that in recent years, we have made some great strides in overcoming that. But I think that there still is a ways to go. And I'm sure for all of us on the panel and all of us listening, when it happens, it catches you off guard that someone sort of underestimated what you do and the value that you bring to this work. And so I think every morning, you know, when I get up and get ready to start my day, I imagine myself responding to someone underestimating me or my people in terms of the quality of what I bring to each project and to each client's inquiries.
Yeah, I guess I think the same, and I would just put it a different way, which is I think one of the greatest misconceptions about design and what we experience is some people often perceive it as art, meaning I get to do whatever I want to do, which is not the case. So in fact, what we do is we problem solve. And I think the most undervalued and misconceived process that we go through, which is called project management, I call it production, I think is one of the greatest areas in our business that is misconceived. People don't understand that in order to achieve design, there's a lot of production that goes into it. It's not just picking colors and fabrics and making everything lovely.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I talk to my clients about is letting them understand and know that we are project managers. at the end of the day, we're taking your vision for your home, putting it in a pretty package and making it happen, come to fruition. So a lot of what we do is project management. And like you said before, you know, seeing things on HGTV, people think it happens in 2 weeks overnight, but they've got hundreds of people on their staff making things run and look smooth, and
and they're not also revealing the mistakes and the challenges.
Oh boy.
So.
I think unfortunately what happens is, I mean, HGTV is a great source of entertainment, but for a lot of people coming away from those television shows, it can appear that what we do is a hobby, right? Just something we love to do. And all of us have been at a backyard barbecue or a cocktail party when somebody says, let me show you this chandelier I just brought. And they break out their phone and ask you, what do you think would go good with it? I would never ask a surgeon, hey, listen, before we get ready to do this surgery, do you have a minute to share with you, what I think in my medical opinion. We're professionals the same way physicians and attorneys are professionals. And sometimes people misunderstand that. Again, this is not a hobby. This is a profession. And this is a business, and as such, it's not like Everett said, we're not just artists that are just sort of, arbitrarily whipping up something,
Right. Absolutely, I love that. Speaking of the art of design, how would you say you have evolved or changed as a designer since you've, I guess, maybe started your career or over the last few years? Everett, jump right in.
You going, Beth?
No, Everett, go ahead.
I can go. Listen, I mentioned one, which is, when I started, I was out there on my own. I'm now a husband and wife team. Within that, or in addition to that, is really technology and going virtual. So I think that has significantly helped my business evolve. It's funny, when we first started doing business online, I thought, oh my God, this is not going to work. But in fact, what I found is the Zoom meetings help arrest people's attention. So when I am presenting on a Zoom versus in person, I find that the Zoom captures the imagination a little better. And then when I get there on site in person, it's a lot easier. But also researching, whether it's sourcing for fabrics or colors, technology has made that a lot easier. At the same time, it's made it challenging because the consumer is that much more savvy as well. But that still doesn't discount my talent. So no matter how many resources they don't have me.
Boom. I love that. There you go. Beth, how would you say you've changed or evolved as a designer?
I would say leaps and bounds. I remember, oh God, when I first started my business, and this was part-time in 2009, and I look back at what I was producing back then, and I'm like, oh my God. Talk about you not knowing what you were doing. And this was like before I went back to school for interior design. I just thought this was only supposed to be a fun side hustle for me. I had no plans of leaving my finance career. So, and I look at that not only from the aesthetic, but the approach, the process, all the things I didn't know. It's like, I don't even know that person.
You've grown, you've developed, you've matured as a designer. So, yeah. Marilyn?
I think that when I first started this, I went back to school thinking that I was going to do public spaces. Downtown revitalization and urban development was sort of a part of how I got so interested in interior design. And by the time I was done with school, I came to really appreciate my interest in working on private residences. It's a work that I really love. So that was probably the first big change. The second big change, and I think I'm still going through this, is understanding the importance of the client experience. And I don't just mean their experience working with me, it's their experience after I leave the project. My goal is for them to have a lasting, pivotal experience of their living space, if it's their workspace, if it's a hospitality space. It's that I want for them to remember that space and the experience that they enjoy in that space. So from that angle, I think that I've learned to think in a much deeper way. Instead of just leaving, a space with, some beauty, I wanted to reach people on a cellular level. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo, but I believe that design has the power to transform the way people experience interior space, but also the way they experience their life within that space. And that is a goal that I seek to bring to every project that I'm working on now. And I wasn't thinking in that way prior.
Thank you for that. Where do you see yourself in your business in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
Thriving.
Love that.
But yeah, listen, I think we're still in the pandemic, right? I think hopefully all of us can agree to that. I think when this bubble pops, we're going to be in a different world. And while it might only be 3 to 5 years, it's going to feel like 15. And so I think we really have to position ourselves where we really do see and believe that we're thriving. And I think what that looks like is what I learned in my old life was called omni-channel. It's going to be a combination of online virtual with, in situ real life situations. But that's sort of what I see and what I've been gearing up for as an organization.
Beth, where do you see yourself as a designer in your business in the next few years?
Part of that is easy to answer, and I say the other part of that is hard to answer. I do expect to have grown my team a bit more, and I do expect a lot of growth within my business. I actually just am back at the New York School of Interior Design as of this semester as a part-time student. And I'm doing it virtual learning, so I don't have to go to the school because I didn't have the time for that. But I know for me, the first time I went back to school for interior design, that inspired so much, which is how I ended up doing that career change. So I can't even imagine what going back now for my bachelor's in design may potentially provoke. So I'm actually feeling like I'm in some sort of transition because I'm only taking one class a semester because of time, and I'm already very inspired just by the one class I'm taking now regarding sustainability. So I can't even wrap my head around where I'll be and what I'll be doing. I just know that the work will still be awesome.
Okay, perfect. Marilyn.
So on a personal level, on a Marilyn Laverne Interiors level, my hope is that my business will grow as I grow in the work that I'm doing right now. So what I'm seeing for myself is larger residential projects, hospitality projects, both here in the greater New York City, New Jersey area, but also further out into other areas. I'm just now starting to do some projects that are outside of the area. On another level, what I hope to see and experience is myself as part of, a broad, really broad environment of Black designers, certainly here in the US, but in Africa, in Asia, in Latin America, in Europe. What I see now in 2023 is not what I saw in 1986 when, as a publicist, I worked on the Kips Bay Show House. People have heard me share this story before, but as a publicist, you're kind of on site many days before the show house starts. We arrive at the site, everybody take your shoes off. There are 33 pairs of shoes, and all of those shoes belong to Black and brown people. But on the day that the show house started, opened, all of those Black and brown people were not there, were not available to be seen. But now we're living in an environment where Beth Diana Smith has participated in show houses on a level that just was not imaginable before. I'm connected with designers in Africa and in Europe, and to see the explosion of our people in this world, in a creative capacity, in a way that we are being respected and acknowledged, that is something that I hope to see for the future. Some of you who live close by know that I embarked on an Afrofuturism project with young students here in Montclair during Montclair Design Week. And it was there that I started to think about the fact that we are going to be here in the future. And I think that we're going to be here in a powerful and very profound way. And that is something that I'm looking forward to being a part of as time goes on. So yes, within the next 5 years, within the next 15 years, within the foreseeable and not foreseeable future, my hope is to see all of us multiplied, in the kingdom of interior design and decor.
And I see that for you. I see that for you. So let me ask you, what would be your advice you would give to budding designers, students who are about to enter the design world? What would be your advice to young people starting out? Everett, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Yeah, first and foremost, I would ask them if they like people. I think we thoroughly discount our time working and negotiating and influencing people. So that's first and foremost. In terms of giving advice, I would say, as I said earlier, learn how to run a business, because you probably already arrived with some type of given gift that's creative. But what's going to really help you buoy is understanding how to run that business. And then I think the thing that a lot of us struggle with, particularly young designers, is just be yourself. Often we're trying to navigate or create that path of what sets us apart from everybody else, and we forget to just be who we are, which is different.
Yes, that's key. Be yourself. Beth.
I would say to keep in mind that everyone's advice is not good advice. And I would say
that's very good.
That's very good.
And I say that because I think we're taught that you do the practical career, and that's great. So a lot of times when people are like, oh, you want to be a business owner, you have to think about that, you have to do this, do something practical, you have to work for someone else. People are giving you advice from their experience.
Yes.
And their experience has nothing to do with your journey and what you want to do. So you got to get really good at ignoring people and being very cognizant that they can't speak to what you're supposed to be doing. The reality is only God would know that and no one else. And I would say in this industry, you have to network. Yes. Go to the events, go to High Point, go to What's New, What's Next. You have to meet other designers, and please, please, please network from a place of giving and not receiving, because it always comes back full circle. Our industry, people would love to help you, but people don't want to feel used and abused. So don't expect anything back. People will automatically just give it to you because they want to help you, because they like you or they love you. That would be my advice.
Marilyn.
Duly noted. I wrote it down.
Yes.
Preach.
Oh my gosh. I think the first thing, I think both Averick and Beth Diana have said it so well. You know, first and foremost, we're creatives and this is a subjective business. And it is probably the best advice is exactly what you said, Beth, is that all advice isn't good advice. And your goals and hopes and dreams and aspirations are precious. So they can't be shared with everybody and anybody because some people will just not, they won't receive your vision for yourself. So that's one thing, keep that precious. The next thing is that no matter where you are, if you're a student in school, if you've just graduated from school, stay with this profession and build whatever, container you need to build around yourself, whether it's people, whether it's your mantra every morning, your meditation practice. You have to remind yourself why you were here. Your why is really going to get you through those difficult times. And with that, I would say take those action steps every day, whether they're large or small, asking yourself, what can I do today to be the person that I want to be tomorrow, or to be the person, the design professional that I want to be in those 5 years that we talked about a moment ago. Manifesting is not something that happens because you sat and closed your eyes and thought about it. It really happens because you took those action steps, whether they're small or large. Those are the things that really make a difference in where you're going to end up. And the last thing, I can't say it enough about networking. So many people I know who say, well, it just didn't work for me, or it didn't happen for me. These are people who don't show up at networking events and who don't participate in the CEUs, or don't shake hands with people after, a panel discussion. Often I think that that's because people feel intimidated, in the moment, but you really got to try to get over that, get past that, and understand that the person you network with today may be the person who, the person you help today or serve today is going to be somebody who's going to help you again later on.
Thank you for that. Those were wonderful. Averick, did you have another? Do you have something else you want to add?
Yeah, I was just going to say again, because I think I saw in the chat that someone said, how do you do that? And if that question was specifically to and around networking, it is offering yourself up. Whatever it is you want, how can you offer something to get that first? Because often we think networking is about what we can get. And I thought Beth put that, I wrote it down because I say the same thing, by the way. But it is, what can I do for whoever it is or what organization it is? And it might look like, if it's, a design firm, I'll go in and intern. I can source fabric. I can lay out different color options. I can bring in ideas on materials. So there's so many things that you can do, but you have to start with and challenge yourself. What can I do? If I met the president of the United States, what could I do for him or her? And that's just the way it is. And then the rest will flow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes, but if we have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And I wrote down a couple of things that I feel like this kind of surmises our time tonight. This is a balancing act. I love that. This business, between business and creativity, is a balancing act. Find your balance. Value of service, time management, and learn how to run a business. Averick stressed that quite a few times. I think that's key, because as designers, like I said, we are still in business, and you need to know how to do that. And if that means hiring a bookkeeper, because I wrote that down, utilizing technology, that's key. Be yourself, network, and know your why. So, do we have any questions? Okay. What would you say is the best way to connect with designers that you have met with if you don't have their email? Is social media too unprofessional?
Social media is a great place to connect. It's social media. And I have met, it's funny, that's the other thing that technology has done, right? I have great virtual friends that when we see each other in real life, it's like, oh my God, we have never met, but we don't
Right.
know that because we correspond on a regular basis.
Right. And you feel like they're your friend. You've known them forever, but you've only
Laura
talked.
Hodges was standing in line one day when I first, I mean, this is going back a couple of years ago, but I literally was like, Laura, and she was like, Everett, and I was like, wait, we haven't met. How did we do that? But, you know, through the organizations and Zooms and corresponding through direct message, we had cultivated a relationship.
So social media is okay. Any other questions? Well, if there are no other questions.
Just a comment.
Oh, please.
Comment is just like what I'm really just I'm seconding the opinion of to give. Rebecca, you mentioned this, and I guess I can't remember who mentioned it also as well. But you know, like Beth, I think you mentioned this as well. So giving to, you know, like to the community, to the design community, to a fellow colleague or whatever, you know, like giving in general is really rewarding. In my personal experience, I have, you know, like it's basically I love to give because I'm getting the double. You know, the bless of the giving is, you know, like it's priceless. It's priceless. And with this, you know, like I would like to offer anyone who would like to join our committees and give to our members, you know, any hand, because we are really in need for members to plan for these events, yeah, and to work this organization, you know, like it's run by the, you know, like by you, the designers, the IPs. So yes, if you have, you know, if you have interest of giving, please reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to assist and guide you through, you know, like the process, how we can move forward, you know, like building our community and our organization as well.
Well, ASID's tagline or motto, if you will, is design impacts lives. So we truly believe that design can affect every aspect of life, you know, from your car to your home to, you know, clothes, everything. So design impact lives, I think, is a great way to surmise what we do and how we impact society. So with that being said,
Sammy, one more thing. I'm sorry.
Yes.
One more thing. If any designer have any interest of joining our community service, you know, committee, you know, like please contact me. I will put my phone number in the chat right now. We really need to be involved in humanitarian and, you know, like, and serve our community as well. Not only the design community, our local communities.
There's one other question that just came in, and I just want to get to it really quickly. Do you find that you have put more effort into your craft? Of course, constantly growing is your talent essential because of the stereotypes that have been placed in the Black and Brown community. Do you find
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the unspoken yet spoken rule in Black and Brown communities is that we feel like we have to work twice as hard to get, sometimes 3, 4, 5 times as hard to get the same recognition as our non-Black and Brown counterparts. So I would have to say, yes, I feel like that in my 42 years of life.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think, you know, this is a new profession for our people. And again, it's a subjective work. And so it's very easy to discount what we do. And for that reason, I think that we probably do work harder. And the other thing is we don't take a lot of chances out here. You know, there are some other people that can take a lot of risks, they can wing it. But, and I've said this to people before, you know, whether you're Harriet Tubman or Beyonce, you're successful because you've planned and prepared for a sure thing, right? You didn't leave a lot of things to chance or kind of willy-nilly. That's a luxury that we don't have. And so I think that in that sense, there's a higher bar that we set ourselves under to be successful.
And if you don't believe it and you need an example, so still today, just take, for example, that most Black designers are invited to panels to discuss issues related to Black design or to Black designers, and not as often invited to panels at large to discuss what we're here to talk about, which is creativity, color, fabrics, materiality, and it goes on and on and on. So just to underscore all that was said, it's real. And if you don't think it's real, look at the next few panels you see and always, you know, source for people of color. Often they're not there. And it's because it's not an issue related to Black people, but I am a designer first before I am a quote unquote Black designer.
Absolutely. And I think that is a wonderful way to end this panel discussion. On that note, we are designers first and foremost. So,
amen.
Amen.
Everett Brown, Marilyn Laverne,
yay,
Diana Smith. This was fantastic. Thank you so very, very much for your time, your contributions. I'm sure everyone gleaned some wonderful advice for any and everyone in the design community. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And when I reach out to you again for another panel, you'll say yes, right, Everett?
Of course. As long as Beth and Marilyn are there.
Absolutely,
we're there.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, so very, very much. This has been recorded, so if you want to pass it around to your friends who were not able to make it tonight, please feel free to go to the Zoom cloud, wherever that is, and share it with your networks. Again, thank you so much, and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Awesome job, Tammy and panelists. Great panel.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Bye-bye.
Bye.